Hey guys, this is Oliver, and in this video, I want to give you a full guide of how to make a living as an artist, how to be a full-time artist, because that's what I am doing. That's what I started doing in 2020. I quit my job in 2020 after making 26,000 within 45 days just from my art. Pretty cool. And you can imagine I was extremely excited. It's actually the first time in my life I started really making money with my art, something that most people consider to be too hard, or it needs years and years of practice and whatever. So magic tricks and genetics, I don't know what, but there are lots of limiting beliefs in the art space, right? But for me, it happened quite fast, and I wanna show you and give you everything you need to know from experience, not just from theory, right? This is very different to just give you theory. You can Google on ChatGPT how to sell art. Google, you can put it in ChatGPT and see what it comes up with, but it's very different than actually walking the path and knowing the nuances of what it takes to be a full-time artist, right? And luckily, I was kind of born with the gift of creativity. I grew up actually in a boarding school when I was 8, because my mom had alcoholic problems. My father was not there much, but both my parents were artists, right, in different ways. My mom was a very, let's say, abstract artist, just like me. That's one of my paintings, like very chaotic, crazy, and colorful, and no boundaries. My father, on the other hand, he was a musician and also a very successful business owner in Switzerland. But I didn't learn much from him. I did have some support from him when I was very young, but not much at all. It's just literally the necessities, right? And I was supposed, I mean, even though in my family there was this creativity, it was kind of obvious. People always wanted to put me in a box of getting an apprenticeship, getting a paper. How do you say a paper? Like in Switzerland, most of the time you have an apprenticeship where you go to school and you work at the same time, and you get paid a few $100 per month. And it takes like 3 to 4 years, right? So that's what most people want me to do. And so for a while, I actually did it. For 2 years, I had an apprenticeship and I completely lost myself. And I hated myself. I hated my life. It was crazy, right? Because I lost that my gift was creativity. And I don't think the world makes it easy for us creatives, right? It's almost like creativity is something nice to have, something fun, but not realistic. It's not something that you should consider making money with, which is actually extremely sad. Because from my experience, when I started selling art, I did a lot of mindset work. I had a mentor for many years, and she helped me a lot to work through certain traumas. She helped me to work through limiting beliefs and just become a happier, more confident person. And I had my self-talk was extremely negative, right? Whatever I started, there was this inner critic just telling me I will amount to nothing. This is not going to work. I'm not good enough. I don't have what it takes. Blah blah blah. It's not possible to be successful. I mean, your brain is your engine. It should support you, right? But imagine if you have a brain full of these negative thoughts. How can you ever achieve something? It's actually most of the time, like the first few years before I even tried to sell art, was just me working on my mindset and getting back to who I am and my gifts. Because yeah, I lost my creative gifts for a while. But in the boarding school, that's what I always did. I couldn't listen in school. I was distracted all the time. But I was thinking about writing songs. I want to become a rapper, then a dancer, actor, all these things. So if you're watching this, you probably feel like this too. You are born to be a creative, right? Maybe your gift, your genius is creativity as well. And I was always looking for a purpose. I've tried many different things. I've done as well photography, even like build a website and had some clients, but not much, not enough to make a living. And on one point, I was even sleeping on the floor because I had no money to pay my bills and get food. I was actually getting food from, it was a food sharing service where you could go around in different locations and get food like bread, for example, that was already bad, or other food that was bad. And I got that to, of course, I didn't eat anything that was bad, but sometimes I found food that was still okay. So, I went through a tough time and I tried and I never gave up. And so sometimes it sounds like, yeah, I've been making a living super fast, and kind of it went fast, right? But all the other things, all the other time, I was working on my mindset. That was the biggest work I needed to do, actually, before I was even able to make a living from my art. But fast forward, in around 2017, I started painting just for me to heal myself. I read the book, The Artist's Way. Maybe you know that book. And that transformed everything for me. That's when I healed some traumas. I actually had traumas in my childhood around painting, funny ways. Right? The teacher grabbed my hair because pushed the brush or put the brush too hard into the water. Uh, that's another story. I actually have a video on my manifestation channel about that. But yeah, the book helped me to release that trauma, and then I exploded. Like my creativity exploded, and I started painting one after the next. Actually, I didn't do it for the money. I first just did it for me. But at one point, I had the first painting that got sold for 600 Swiss francs, which is about maybe 800 USD. My first painting, I painted that when I was like 14, 15 in my boarding school. Never ever thought that anyone would buy that. But again, I was working on my mindset. And since I have a manifestation YouTube channel, I do believe in that stuff. I believe that we are all energy, right? And if you can visualize something, back then I was actually visualizing making 600 Swiss francs. I didn't even know what. I didn't really consider selling my art back then. But I had just had the number. I knew I want to have 600 Swiss francs. And then my mom met someone on a bus station. And he came home and he bought one of like a few of her artworks since she's also an artist. And then he bought my painting for 600 Swiss francs. Isn't this insane? I mean, I visualized it. I wanted that number. But that was the start for me. That's when I considered to sell my art and find a way to make it happen. And so that was around 2017, 2018. And it felt actually, even though it's quite a short amount of time, it was quite tough. In the beginning, I wasn't able to sell my art, and I sold one for 600. Then nobody wanted to buy it for more than like 200. And so I went through that period. But I actually, on one point, I just kind of let it go and worked on my mindset more and more, my confidence. And then on one point, it started making click. And I started talking to other artists, and some artists, like one artist specifically, and I'm super thankful for her. She just, for free, helped me out. Because most artists are extremely competitive and nobody wants to share their secrets. So for me, part of my mission is as well to share what I learned and not hold back, because I don't really believe in competition, but I know it's a big thing in the art space, right? Many artists are super critical. They're very private. They don't want to share any secrets. There's somehow like some jealousy maybe even going around. But yeah, going back to the story, at one point it made click thanks to her. I had a strategy, so I started working on my mindset. I also read a book from Maria Brophy. She's actually my business partner, Art, Money, Success. This book also inspired me because it gave me new ideas. So in the morning, while I still had a full-time job back then, I was reading her book, and then I was just writing down what the inspiration I got, like what popped into my mind of what action steps to take. And then I had this artist friend that told me to post in Facebook groups. And back then I posted in expat groups in Switzerland. So people that are outside of Switzerland, they came to Switzerland and they live now there, right? And they join expat groups. And there are different ones, like expat groups in Zurich, Basel, Lausanne, Geneva. So I joined all these groups. And what she said, I introduced myself, showed some of my art, and people started buying my art. And that was when I sold my first painting for like 1,500. And it started happening. That was 2019, right? And I made 15,000 in 6 months in 2019. But in 2020, that's when it really started happening. That's when everything switched. And that's when in August, I quit my job. August 2020, I quit my job. Before that, I made 26,000 within 45 days. 45 days, 26,000 worth of my art sold. And that's again, Swiss francs. I don't know how much it is in USD, maybe 28,000 USD, I don't know. But yeah, that's what happened. How did it happen? On one point, and I wanted, I know you guys, I like talking about mindset because it was 90% of the work. I could not do anything. Someone could come with the best opportunity on planet or Earth and tell me, this is how you're going to sell $1 million worth of art. But if my mindset was really bad and I don't believe in myself and my art, I would not be able to use that strategy, right? But I also want to give you practical steps here on this YouTube channel so I can tell you exactly what happened practically. Like mindset-wise, I owned the identity of a successful artist because before I was thinking that, the only artist that exists is kind of like a starving artist. Artists are weird. I need to have long hair and look weird and be weird and be eccentric and wear different clothes to get attention, to make it happen. I thought this is what an artist is. But then I had one of my mentors, his name is John Butcher. He's from Lifebook. That's also a great program that I did to work on my mindset and clarify my vision. But he said with pride that he's an artist and he's super successful. He's wealthy, great shape. amazing relationship. He has his life together in all areas, and he also has no hair. Like he looks very different than the typical artist that I had in mind. And he was confident, wealthy, and all these things that I wanted to be, right? And when he claimed with pride that he's an artist, he found it cool to be an artist. That made a switch in my mind, and I'm like, wow, I'm an artist too, and this is the kind of artist I want to be. So that's when it started happening, and that's when I started looking for opportunities. It's not that I made the mind switch and people started buying it. It was almost like this, but it was step by step, right? So I started looking out for opportunities. I started considering this as a full-time career, started believing that it's possible, and I started getting excited about the vision of being a full-time artist, and that it's actually cool to be an artist, right? So I started looking out for opportunities, and opportunities came to me. And there was one guy, a business coach. He was coaching actually consultants. And I always kind of like to coach people because, from my traumatic past, I always was interested in like how we work as humans and why are certain people like this, like why do people struggle with addiction, like my mom. And I always wanted to help these people. I always wanted to help my mom, right? So I consider coaching since a long time. So when I talked to this guy, I was considering doing coaching, but somehow it didn't feel right. And I was thinking like, I actually want to sell my art. I have so much artworks I was already painting since 2 years, right? Or maybe 3 years. So I had lots of paintings, maybe even, I don't know, maybe 100 paintings already. I was painting quite a lot. And so I thought I'd just ask him if he could help me with that, even though this is not his expertise. So I asked him and he said, yes, he had this confidence. And I'm like, why not try it, right? So I just took a risk, basically, invested in myself and in his help, and turned out that some of his tips were working really well for me. Over the years, I actually built up a bit my Facebook. I was posting on my Facebook. I was posting my progress without selling much. And then when I had him as a coach, he just told me, instead of chatting with people and trying to make the sale on Messenger, jump with them on a call. That's exactly what I did. And by the way, before that, I had some people saying they were interested in my art, but I was so scared because I didn't even know what to say. I didn't even know how much to charge. I had no idea. I was so scared. I actually avoided these people that were interested, right? But it also felt really good to me to have someone that is behind me, that is helping and supporting me, and that maybe knows a bit more than me about business, right? And here's another key lesson, guys. It's not all about painting. I know a lot of artists, they want to outsource the business side, but there's no one that can sell your art better than yourself. Because actually, for people, getting to know the artist is quite an important piece of the whole puzzle, right? It's not just the art. And some think the art speaks for itself. Yes and no. But I can tell you, by far, from my experience, on one point, I was even thinking like people buy my art because of me, not even because of my art. Some people didn't even ask me about the size, the name, the story. They didn't even ask any of these questions. Just because we talked and we had a really good connection, a great conversation, inspiring conversation, they bought it, Like I have lots of these stories, but key lesson is not all about painting, and actually learning the business side is important. It's very important, right? Because without that, how are you going to make a living? I've been thinking like this too. I've been thinking all the time, I don't like business. I don't like marketing. I don't want to do sales. I don't want to talk to people. I just want to buy and I want people to buy. I just want to paint and want people to buy my art. That's it, right? But I was in this cycle. I was stuck there. It didn't work. For me, my life changed and I became a full-time artist when I took ownership of this whole thing, of the whole business side of things. And I even invested money in a coach so I can learn these things. That's when things really changed. And it's not that difficult, right? I believe as artists, we do sell art, but I also believe it works a bit differently. And I've never been salesy. I've never been pushy. But okay, maybe sometimes I've been a little bit pushy. We're all human. But when I talk to people, it was all about connecting to them, not really to try them to sell something. But because I connected to them, some of these people bought my art. Because first of all, we had a great connection, inspiring conversation. I was listening to them, which is adding value to them. And I always made the ask. I just asked them if they would be interested. Sometimes it felt more natural, sometimes not. But I jumped with them on a Zoom call. That's important to know. I chatted with them on Facebook, invited them to a Zoom meeting just to check, getting to know them. Then we hopped onto Zoom with a video call, and then we had just a conversation. I'm getting to know them. I'm listening, right? And then in the end of the call, maybe it takes an hour, I'm asking them if they will be interested in an artwork. Right? It depends on the person. Sometimes they look at my art. I always have my art in the background. That's important. Sometimes they are asking about the art, right? And the conversation goes more naturally into the art. But I made it my mission to ask, just to ask, right? Because if they say no, so what? You know, people, like many artists are actually afraid of rejection, of being pushy, salesy. Many artists are so afraid of many things. And so that's why I do need to talk about the mindset part too, right? Maybe not all of you, maybe some of you have a great mindset and you're like ready to take action on certain strategies. And all you need is, the step-by-step strategy, right? But some of you, and I think most of you, need to hear the mindset stuff too. Because if you're scared all the time, you're not going to take action on anything, right? And I just took action. I wasn't, okay, I was also scared, but I did the action anyways, right? So I asked all of these people after we connected, and many of these people bought my art. And I was very proactive. So I posted in different Facebook groups a lot. Again, this is the strategy. So listen to me. If you're saying that I'm not saying anything, because I had some people complaining that I'm not saying anything in my videos, here's the strategy. Listen, it works, right? If you just listen to this video and not take any action, not make any notes, of course, it probably will feel like nothing happened, right? Because you didn't do anything. But one thing that really works, and that's the strategy I use, is go in lots of different Facebook groups that where my ideal customer is in. No, not art collector groups. Forget about that. Not abstract lover. Pet portraits can work, but still, there are probably other artists in there too. I was focusing on my deeper why, and since I'm doing abstract, I'm like, what is the meaning of my abstract art? And it was about spirituality, personal growth. So I went into these groups, lots of these groups. I was introducing myself. I was, introducing me with a bit of my story and the picture of my art, sometimes multiple artworks. I did that, and I sometimes got lots of likes, lots of comments, and that's Facebook. So I'm not talking about Instagram. Instagram can work too, but it works very differently because you need to more play the algorithm game, right? You need to go viral, and I can talk about this too because I actually went viral on Instagram. I have a video 3.2 million views and several ones that are over 100,000. So I also kind of know that game, but I don't like it so much because you get then lots of comments, and sometimes you get really weird comments. But Facebook, the cool thing is you can go in Facebook groups where you find the right people that resonate with your art, right? They resonate with the meaning behind your art. And then you have lots of likes and comments, and then you literally send friends requests to all of these people, and then you chat with these people. That's it, but you have to do the work, right? It's like you can do the same if you network outside of your home. Like if you go to an event, you need to do the same. You have to talk to people, right? So whatever you want to do, if you want to do it online, that's a great strategy. Facebook works. It still works today. Okay, that's what I've done. Chatted with lots of people. So sometimes my messenger was full of messages, unanswered messages. And I was checking with them back and forth to build a bit of the connection so they trust me, right? And when it felt like now is the right time, I offered to jump on a call. And I didn't jump on a call to try to sell my art. Sometimes too. But what I noticed from my experience is if I directly go into, hey, let's talk about the art or the call, they had this sense that I might want to sell them something and nobody wants to be sold anything, right? So yeah, sometimes when someone was specifically interested in the art, I also made it, like most of the time I jumped on a call too. Because it's just so much easier to make an offer on the call. If you make an offer on the per message, they can always ignore you. And it's kind of annoying, right? Because you're waiting for the answer. You can do it too. Like you just need to follow up more probably. But yeah, I like to be on the call because then when I pitch the price, say like, hey, it's 4,000, 5,000, 3,000, whatever, I could immediately get their reaction. And if they didn't want to buy it, I could ask them kind of why, to really figure out why. Is it the price? Is it the artwork? What is it? Right? So I could help them solve the problem. So yeah, I do think calls are so much more effective than selling per message, right? But yeah, so this is basically how I did it. That's how I live for my art. And something interesting happens when you take massive action as an artist. And as I said, it starts with the belief. You have to believe that you can even do it. So I worked a lot on my vision. Like, what kind of life do I want to live? Who do I want to be? And claiming this successful artist identity. I worked a lot on, I cut my hair, by the way. I had long hair. I cut my hair off because I wanted to be a different person. I wanted to embody someone else. This was fun. This was an exercise that my coach gave me. It's one thing that I would normally never do, right? That was the exercise. So I did it to change my brain, my perspective. And so, though I'm not saying you should do that, but this helped me to get into this new identity, to realize this is a new chapter, a new me. And then I was just acting upon this vision and this new identity every single day. And I took massive action. I was doing the work, not just painting. I still painted quite a lot. Whenever I felt like it, I was painting, right? Because now, you know, if you want to be a full-time artist, it has pros and cons. You are your own boss. You can say when you work and when you don't work, when you paint and when you do marketing or write messages, it's all up to you. So you have a lot of freedom, but you also have a lot of responsibility, because if you don't do it, if you don't reach out to people, nothing is going to happen. So you need to motivate yourself, right? And that's the lesson that I needed to learn as well. But yeah, it was fun. It was actually one of my most amazing times, because I was feeling so purposeful and I had the success. I was moving forward. I was selling more and more. And as I said, something interesting happens when you are aligned, with like your mind and your body, like what you want. You know exactly what you want. You want to be a full-time artist. You want to be successful. You want to sell paintings for XYZ. Like I want to sell art for a lot, like quite high prices. So I've done that. It's not for everyone. You know, I'm not saying everybody needs to sell their art for 5,000 or more, but that's what I wanted and I did it. So it was aligned. It was really exciting. And I took the action. I did what I said I will do, right? And I showed up as a successful artist. And then I built this momentum. And when I built this momentum with the action, the massive action, opportunities also came to me. So there were like, at the same time, people reaching out to me as well. And then it seemed like out of nothing, I sold another painting. Or suddenly a guy wanted to have his whole apartment with my art, and we made a deal. He paid me 9,000 Swiss francs for a few art. I don't remember how many. It was like one big one or two big ones. It was a great deal for him, but still 9,000. I mean, in USD, I think that's maybe 10K for one deal. I mean, all these things started happening, but I'm 100% sure these things wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have taken action and didn't build the momentum that I did. This is extremely important, right? So you need to almost get into this flow. And without it, you can never make a living. I would never have been able to make a living if I would just waited for people to come me and reach out to me. And that's what many artists, they are kind of passive. They're waiting for opportunities to come to them. Opportunities are everywhere, but it's up to you to actually, grab them and do something with them, right? And again, that's where the mindset work comes in, because if your mind is filled with limiting beliefs and negative thoughts, it's going to be extremely hard to find opportunities, to see them. Not find, they're actually here, but to see them, okay? So I recommend every single artist to read books on mindset, do the work, like take action towards your dream, right? What do you want to achieve as an artist? What's your vision? Take action on it. Even if you have a full-time job, take small actions every day and make sure you read books that are inspiring, right? That lift you up, that will change the mindset that you currently have, right? I highly recommend The Go-Giver, by the way. I'm reading it again, The Go-Giver, and then The Go-Giver Sell More. Amazing book, because it talks about giving. The giving mindset will solve a lot of your problems, like all the problems you have around, fear of rejection, self-doubt, being too pushy, too salesy, all these things. This book will take care of it, I promise. So read The Go-Giver, which is a red book. It's the story. And then The Go-Giver Sell More as the second one. It will change your life. So yeah, I wanted to tell here my story and give you practical steps as well, so that you can implement them and start making a living, right? And again, like I would need to make a video that's an hour long to give you all the steps, because there are multiple steps. And in the end of the day, what it takes is it takes your action, right? You have to do something, right? So you cannot just listen to videos. Hopefully this video is inspiring you. And if you feel inspired to take action, do something. But yeah, at the end of the day, you have to, after this video, you have to just do something to move forward and sell your art, okay? So yeah, if you want more help, I have a whole program in the Art Money Success community or mastermind, we call it actually mastermind, that I co-founded with Maria Brophy. And Maria is an amazing person, and she has, I think, 20 years plus experience in that business. Her husband is Drew Brophy. Maybe you even know him. Super successful artist. I mean, they built this business together and they sold millions in art, right? So she's amazing, and I'm so grateful that I'm able to have this business together with her, where we help artists, because we are both passionate about selling art and art itself, but also we are very passionate about helping other artists, right? If you want to check it out, the link is below, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace.